Hello again, friends. Time for another In Other News. And this one's way off your knowledge radar in other news, which is why, of course, I'm going to talk about it. Small story, buried story. You're not going to see this story in any major newspapers or making headlines anywhere, particularly in the context that today is April 16th, 2013, and just had the terrorist attacks in Boston yesterday. So you're not going to see this story anywhere, but I think it's of particular significance to the place it's happening, Turkey, and possibly to the wider region of the Middle East. So what happened? What am I talking about? A concert pianist in Turkey was just given a 10-month prison sentence for insulting religion. What? Yeah, what's up with that? Let's entitle this one, Punished Pianist, a Sign of a Turkish Shift? Say that 10 times fast. All right, let's get to some of the details. Because again, I think it is a significant story that people may be talking about across other parts of the planet. It's this guy, this concert pianist named Fazil Say, and he is world renowned. I mean, this guy plays with philharmonics all over the world, in America and Europe. So a respected, a global figure, let's say, a worldly man, but a Turkish citizen. And so on his Twitter feed, of which he has like 44,000 followers or something, he made a bunch of, to some insulting, to others unsavory, to most non-Islamic people either hilarious or we have no idea what they even mean. But he made a bunch of comments on his Twitter feed, not even about the Prophet Muhammad, not even about Allah, not really even about Islam in general, I don't think, but of a few specific things about making fun of drinking and making fun of, I think, maybe ayatollahs or mullahs. So kind of a general, hey, kind of mocking certain elements of religious society. No direct attacks on Islam, no making fun of the religion per se in terms of attacking it. But that was enough. And the Turkish judicial system said 10 months in prison. By the way, BTW, it's already suspended. 10 months in prison, suspended, as long as you don't do anything wrong in the next 5 years. So basically putting the guy on a short leash. Now, why is this important? Again, for most liberal democracies that focus on human rights as kind of a core component and free speech, this is preposterous. We would say, you can't, no, there's a separation between church and state, and so you can't make fun of people for free speech even if they're making fun of religion. And you know what? Again, this is why it intrigues me. Turkey's pretty much like that. Turkey is pretty much a liberal democracy. Turkey pretty much does have free speech. Turkey pretty much is like most other Western-style democracies in this respect. It is secular. There is a division between church and state. In fact, again, this is why it's interesting to me, is Turkey is one of the states, nay, the biggest, most important state, that really focuses on specifically, intentionally, and radically separating church and state. For those of you who have taken my class or read my Turkey chapter or heard me do my Turkey lecture, Turkey is interesting in that it goes out of its way to basically say, no, Islam's over here and the government's over here. And they do it in a lot of different ways, hardcore, that aren't even done in Western democracies. And what I mean by that is they've banned religious apparel or religious symbols in any state, school, or state building. So you can't wear a cross, a pendant, put on a Islamic headscarf. You can wear that in public, but you can't go into a government building, not a state-run building. You can't cross that line. That's pretty extreme. So again, this brings up the question, well, why would Turkey, it's so secular, intentionally secular, and since its formation of the modern state of Turkey back in 1923, this was written into the Constitution, we're going to be secular, 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 separate. And the military will protect our secularness at all costs. So if religion starts to bleed into the government too much, if people start to become a little too Islamic, if they want to put Islamic law into effect in the state legal system, then the military is charged with coming in and saying, no, you can't do that, we're a secular state. And the military has done that multiple times in Turkey's history since 1923. So again, this is what's really intriguing. It's like, how does this slip through then? And a lot of folks in Turkey, more liberal folks in Turkey, say, yes, this is a huge travesty. And this is because of this political party that we have been saying for years is a religious political party, but they've been allowed to exist. And it's the AK party. For those of you not familiar with Turkish politics, which would be everyone in America, the major Turkish political party right now in power is called the AK party, the Justice and Development Party. I would assume it's kind of like the Republicans in the United States. I actually don't even know what the other big political party is in Turkey, but I think it's about a two-party system. Maybe they have a few other political parties, but it's two big ones. And again, kind of center-left party and a kind of center-right party. The AK party is certainly center-right. And I actually liken it to the Republican Party, more like likening it to, say, the conservative movement in the United States. The Republicans are a political party in the United States, and we are a secular government in the United States. We don't cross the religion and politics either. But conservative Republicans would favor, say, prayer in school, would favor maybe even the adoption of, say, Christianity as a state religion. Those are things they would favor. Now, they don't often get those things, but they favor them. And most conservatives will say, yes, we should have prayer in school. Yes, we should have the Ten Commandments on the kindergarten wall. These are issues that you as Americans are familiar with. And we debate about it in our society. We're like, no, but that offends other religions, and we're a secular state, so we're not going to do that. Turkey's the same way. And this AK party is, again, the kind of the equivalent of, say, conservative Republicans. And they say, look, we're a political party, but we're devoutly religious, and we love Islam, and so we're not saying we want to turn Turkey into an Islamic state. We're not trying to become Iran, a theocracy that's a full-on religion does run the state. They're saying, no, we're devoutly religious people and conservative people, and yes, we think religion plays a big role in our society, and we want to express that in as many ways as possible. Again, liken it to them saying, we want to put the Ten Commandments in the public school system. They wouldn't do that in Turkey because they have the Quran, although they believe in the Old and New Testaments as well. Point being, this is what the debate about is. This is why this is a hot button subject in Turkey right now, is because folks on the other side of the aisle, the center-left political parties in Turkey are saying, see, we've been telling you guys for years that this AK party, and by the way, the AK party is large and in charge. They control the parliament. Our good friend Recep Erdogan, the prime minister of Turkey, is from the AK party. The president of Turkey is from the AK party. They really control all levels of the executive branch, and they control the legislative branch in Turkey as well right now too, which kind of means they control the judicial branch. Now we're getting back to this actual current event story. Many folks from the other side of the aisle, the center-left political parties, have been saying, dudes, we've been saying for years that AK party is just a front because they want to make Turkey into an Islamic state. They want to make Turkey into Iran. Personally, I don't believe that. Again, I liken the AK party more to religious conservatives in the United States, like the Republicans. But the center-left folks in Turkey are like, see, this is exactly what we're talking about. The AK party has slowly over time stocked up the judicial system with like-minded candidates, stocked up and now taken over the legislative system, and they control the executive branches, and now they're slowly implementing Islam into all sections of the society. Again, I'm not suggesting I believe that. I actually like Recep Erdogan. I think the AK party is kind of okay. They're having the same internal debates in their society, again, that we're having in America. But this is why it's such a big deal, because the other side is saying, wow, no, Boyer, you're wrong. It's not the same. Because them convicting a respected international musician for making fun of mullahs on his Twitter feed, they're now taking it too far. And again, I understand that argument. I'm like, even myself, again, I've told you now, I like Recep Erdogan, but it's like, yes, they are starting to straddle a line. And this is something that Turkey is going to continue to debate about. The AK party is really strong, and now are they so strong that, yes, they might now start pulling the country towards a more religious side? Might they start actually relaxing some of these constitutional acts that say prohibit the wearing of a burqa or a religious pendant in these state buildings? Could that be next? Could they be migrating towards a more religious conservative attitude for their entire country? Maybe, maybe not. Again, this is not for me to call. I'm just informing you because this is why I pay attention to things. It's interesting to me. Why is it important for the bigger region? Because you could look at this and say, well, that's a domestic story. Who cares? Au contraire. I think it is an international story. Because Turkey is such a role model for the wider region and possibly the world of Islam. There are 1.5 billion adherents of Islam worldwide across, hell, I'm going to speculate 40 to 50 countries, of which maybe 20 or 30 are overwhelmingly Islamic-based folks. So what we're seeing now to tie this current event story to issues in the wider world is that many folks in Islamic countries, and by Islamic countries I mean that the population is overwhelmingly Muslim. In many Muslim societies, there is an internal debate, not just in Turkey, but in all of them, about how they should run their states, how they should run their governments. Should they follow the Iranian model and be a full-on theocracy? Should they put Islam as the center of the state and the center of the legal and political system? Iran is the extreme. Or should they do something on the other side of the spectrum? Again, back to point, more like Turkey. Turkey is an Islamic country, but it is a full-on, well-established democracy. A pretty liberal one, too. And actually, that's what I kind of put those two countries up. Iran is one extreme, and Turkey's the other. And so you have many countries all across, not just the Middle East, but the wider world. Countries like Malaysia and Indonesia and Southeast Asia have huge Islamic populations. And people are debating about these things there as well. How should we run our state? Should we be secular or should we blend it? And Turkey is, again, what I consider a role model on one side of the spectrum where they have been extremely successful. It's a 100% Muslim state. And they're a liberal democracy. Stable, rich, growing, successful. They really are a role model in every sense of the word. Okay, so why doesn't everybody do that? Well, because people have different opinions about things, about how they should run their affairs. And the reason this is pertinent in today's world is, let's all go to current events of the last couple of years, the whole Arab Spring. This whole Arab revolution where people across the Arab worlds, and of course the Turks are Turks, they're not Arab, but just south of them on the Saudi Arabian Peninsula and all the way across North Africa, these are Arab folks that are throwing off the yoke of dictators and other bad regimes, and they're trying to figure out how to run their states. And some look to Turkey as a model and say, hey, that looks pretty good because Turkey's doing really well. Others look at Iran as the model and say, yeah, but we're really Islamic people, and Iran is putting Islam first. And this is very pertinent in current events when we come to a place like Egypt that's in the middle of this struggle physically, not even symbolically. They're physically, tangibly in the middle of this struggle right now when you have parties like the Islamic Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood, the political party that now controls Egypt and is growing in popularity across other Arab states. And the Muslim Brotherhood, again, is kind of like the AK, except they're even further to the right. And they say, no, we're religious people, and we want to have religion as part of our government structure and the legal code and the judicial system. So back to point, and to finish up. A concert pianist twittering. How on earth can that possibly affect events in the wider world? I hope I've now outlined for you. The way that Turkey goes could very well be the way that lots of other states go. And as we see the AK party growing in popularity even within Turkey and perhaps being a little more assertive in pulling the Turkish state towards the religion side. Again, I'm not suggesting that they're successful at it, but things like this make it appear as if they are pulling towards more religious conservative right. And that may, of course, play out across the greater Arab region to their south, which folks are saying, okay, well, Turkey's doing well, and Turkey's the model in their democracies. We're trying to make Egypt into a democracy, but what type of democracy? perhaps more the way the AK party's doing it, perhaps even more to the right, perhaps even more conservative. Perhaps we'll just throw out the whole secular thing altogether in our country and just fully admit that maybe we're not a full-on theocracy like Iran, but that we're going to implement a lot more religious tradition and religious law into our state apparatus. Does that make sense? Again, seems like a small story, but could have impacts well beyond just Turkey's future, could be for the future of lots of states across the Middle East and the wider world. But that's what I do. I pull in the stories that nobody pays attention to, that are actually working behind the scenes, in an effort to make you understand the wider world just a little bit better. But that's all we have for now, and I'm out.